Despite being a likely candidate for one of the most awaited movies of the year, the Mulan live-action remake arrived in full glory in the small screen instead of the large one. Spoilers ahead if you haven't watched the film, because today we'll be reviewing every small or big detail of the film and providing you with our final thoughts on how good it was. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and to turn on notifications for more film reviews like this one. Without further ado, let's get started. The story of Mulan is the same in both the original and the remake, with only a few slight changes being made to the characters surrounding the protagonists. Basically, the Emperor of China issued a decree that one man per family has to serve the Imperial Army to defend the country from the northern invaders. In this case, Mulan takes the place of her sick and injured father, who we know wouldn't last much in the battlefield should he participate. However, Mulan has to disguise as a man to be able to carry out her plan, being tested every step of the way, physically, mentally, and spiritually, eventually transforming herself into an honored warrior and earning the respect of the Empire along the way. Of course, Mulan will have to experience some serious roadblocks on the way to glory. More so given the fact that she's a woman in disguise and blowing her cover would, ironically, be deadlier than dying itself. In this iteration, Mulan is played by Liu Yifei, and risks being shamed by her nation forever if she were to be revealed as a woman. Even after thoroughly enjoying finally watching such an epic film on the small screen, we believe Disney didn't honor the movie as it should have, no pun intended. That's because a movie with such well-coordinated combat scenes, transcendent storytelling, and terrific acting by all of its actors and supporting cast made it a film worth a theatrical release, instead of streaming. Not that you won't enjoy it, but instead of rushing a release just to get it out in the faces of viewers, Disney should have waited until they could have released it in theaters. Being a live-action film, but at the same time a Disney film, means that for kids and people of all ages, it has to be suitable, so the movie has no blood. Instead, the screen is sometimes covered with a crimson color that serves as symbolism that, of course, there's gotta be at least a little blood spilled in such a bloody war, and more so in a path filled with so much fighting and swordplay as this one. Liu Yifei's acting range is definitely impressive, considering that she manages to show us an impetuous rebel Mulan to a commanding leader at the same time. She manages to characterize the most human version we've seen of the character, and during her tumultuous journey, we experience all of her joys and hardships, a phenomenon that happens to be incredibly resonant for women of all ages during these times. She perfectly embodies the silk-hiding steel archetype, a strong, unflinching woman who makes for a very convincing soldier, even more so than other men contemporary to her. That's despite Yifei's casting causing an uproar due to her being considered one of China's worst actresses due to her tendency to avoid facial expression, which sometimes can admittedly be seen during the film. Regarding the direction, Nikki Caro is the ideal director for the live-action Mulan, being also experienced with other films with strong female leads, such as Whale Rider in 2002. She also manages to drop many important Easter eggs from the 1998 animated film, although most notoriously and to the outrage of many loyal Mulan fans, Mushu is absent from the film. While it would be admittedly weird to have an animated flying dragon around a gritty live-action film, a CGI one could end up being cringy in the worst-case scenario. And Mushu is also one of the most iconic parts of the original Mulan. Even Karud said during footage that Mushu the dragon is irreplaceable, and instead employed plenty of symbolism, mostly represented by the phoenix. Ironically enough, on a cultural level, the usage of a phoenix rather than the dragon was better received with Chinese audiences, considering that most of these saw Mushu as an insulting representation of Chinese dragons. On top of that, the movie received a lot of praise due to them taking basic elements of the original animated film and altering the necessary parts to make the film its own thing. That's fantastic, given the fact that Disney's live-action remakes have been criticized recently due to being essentially a shot-for-shot remake worth millions of dollars worth of CGI and a remastered soundtrack, instead of adding something intriguing to the previous versions. We would say that Mulan isn't exactly a remake, instead of an adaptation of the same Mulan Chinese ballad with several changes to be made more respectful to the Chinese culture, unlike the animated version, which explains why Mulan as a character herself remains intact but Mushu is absent. While Liu Yifei's combat scenes are decent enough, we have to highlight that her archery technique isn't the best out there, especially if you know how to use a bow. Another notorious addition to the film is the sheer amount of magic present in the story. While the animated Mulan had to fight against Shan Yu and his hawk, the live-action Mulan is up against Bori Khan, masterfully played by Jason Scott Lee, and a shape-shifting witch known as Zhan Lang, played by Gong Li. Adding a new female villain adds a new dimension of exploration to the theme of sexism, and while it has been a big point of contention amongst critics, we believe that Zhan Lang is a necessary foil to Mulan's own character. In Lang's case, she's operating against her own wishes. In the northern invaders more so than the Chinese Empire, women have no place in society, much less in the front lines of an invasion. Her story and background is similar to Mulan's own. She despises her situation, but isn't actively doing anything to solve it as Mulan is. Interesting, considering the parallels she has with Mulan. On top of that, in this iteration, Mulan is born with Qi, described as natural world energy that some people are born with and can eventually master to improve their mental and physical skills. Zhan Lang's magic is based on the manipulation of said Qi. The movie in general was marketed to both Western and Chinese audiences with mixed results, given the context of these two audiences. First of all, in the West, fans were clamoring to see an adaptation faithful to the animated Mulan film, and though the silly elements made it popular with Western audiences, those were removed. Also too, the musical numbers were gone, as was Mushu, making it more foreign to Western audiences who aren't as well acquainted with the Chinese elements. Yet, at the same time, Disney tried to make it more authentic to Chinese history and respect its cultures and myths, yet anyone who lives in China can call out the movie's attempts in doing so because of their superficiality. Remember the phoenixes we mentioned earlier? Well, in China, phoenixes don't rise from ashes and don't have fire powers. That's a completely Western notion. On top of that, Zhan Lang, the infamous witch, didn't exist in the original Mulan legend. The term witch wasn't even used in China. Finally, Mulan's Qi superpower is treated in a very strange way, given the fact that in Chinese culture, Qi is a quintessential form of energy present in every life form, instead of just some individuals. So, the movie reviews Western editions, but wrongly adds appropriated Chinese cultural elements that don't add much to the movie, save for Zhan Lang's parallels with Mulan herself. Regarding our final verdict of the film, the direction and cinematography, definitely its strong points. The fight scenes are seamless, the quality of filming is superb, as expected from a top-notch Disney film. The acting is decent, with most of the weight falling on top of Yifei, Gong Li, and Jason Scott Lee. While Yifei has been widely criticized due to her mediocre acting in China, she displays a decent range in the film that makes Mulan relatable as a woman struggling in a very sexist setting. The storytelling and narrative elements are confusing due to the aforementioned reasons, on top of most people comparing and nitpicking every little change to the live-action film with the original. But overall, we'd give it a 3.7 out of 5. Definitely not a bad movie, and one worth watching. When you watch this film, however, don't expect to find many similarities to the animated version other than the film's name. So, did you watch the Mulan movie yourself? Let us know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to leave us a like, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications for more reviews like this one. We really hope you enjoyed our video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.